again, would like to talk to Yuriy Gorodnichenko, professor of economics from Berkeley, California, on what is exactly happening to hryvnia and who is exactly to blame with what is happening. Yuriy, hello, good evening. How do you hear us?
Hi, I'm fine.
Oh, hello. In your opinion, what exactly is happening with Ukrainian national currency right now?
Well, we can easily see that there is a problem with the Ukrainian currency. It has depreciated a lot in recent days, and the National Bank of Ukraine is taking a set of emergency actions to defend hryvnia. And, this may seem unpopular, but the choice set is very limited, and we basically have a choice between something very terrible and something very bad. You choose bad instead of terrible. So this is what's going on with hryvnia now.
Do you think it's mainly the war to blame if we talk overall about the economic situation and specifically about hryvnia? Is it really the war to blame in the current situation?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question well.
My question was, what is the main factor of this situation with the national currency in Ukraine? Is it really the war to blame in the current situation?
Okay, so we can look at the fundamentals of what happens in Ukraine and then look at some sort of non-fundamental factors. The fundamental factor that Ukrainian hryvnia was overvalued for a long time. 8 hryvnias per dollar was not sustainable. So I think we should start with that. That was a starting point. The hryvnia must have been devaluated, right? So there is no way out of that. Now, what should be the level after this depreciation is an open question. But, it certainly didn't look like 30 hryvnias per dollar is a reasonable equilibrium outcome. Now, what are the forces that move hryvnia into depreciation, right? So one source of sort of pressure on hryvnia is an open war in eastern Ukraine. So it creates a sense of uncertainty. People want to store their savings in a sort of stable unit of currency. That's one. Second, the government has to spend a lot on military purposes. This creates an enormous fiscal deficit. Just this year, we know that the government committed to spend 5% of GDP on national security. It's a very significant amount. That's one. Second, we have a big problem in the banking system, right? So many banks fail every day. The central bank, the National Bank of Ukraine, has to provide emergency funding to the banking system, because if we stop banking system, if we let it collapse, the whole economy is going to collapse very quickly. So you have, at the same time, two forces. You have to inject money into the economy to support the banking system. You also need to help the central government to finance their expenditures for military purposes. But you can't borrow money from abroad. Right? Ukraine cannot go in the bond market and say, we want to borrow this much to finance our expenses. This creates these inflationary pressures that, people understand that the next step is going to be inflation. They want to take their savings from hryvnias, convert them into dollars. We have a very classic capital flight, a sudden stop when the government cannot borrow and the capital tries to flee the country.
Yeah, we can really see Ukrainians panicking a little bit. But the question is, what do you think the government could do to win back that trust, to make people bring their money back to Ukrainian banks?
Okay, exactly. Yeah. So we have that, and then we have a panic when people just think, okay, everything is going to fall apart. It's a desperate situation. If you don't convert your hryvnias into dollars, it's going to be too late tomorrow. So we have a classic panic. Now, what the central bank did, introduce capital controls, is basically one of the options. You could, cut spending, cut healthcare, cut education, cut safety net, cut lots and lots of things on the government spending side. Or you can start selling dollars and buying hryvnias to defend the national currency, or you can introduce capital controls. I think the government did the right thing. They introduced capital controls, but they didn't communicate this properly. So I think what should happen is that there should be a consistent message coming from the Prime Minister, from the National Bank of Ukraine, from the President, from the Parliament, in fact, that they all work together to stabilize hryvnia. There is a clear vision, and there is every reason to be optimistic about why hryvnia should recover.
And we didn't see that. We didn't see that coming. We didn't see that communication happening here in Ukraine, right?
You didn't see a consistent message, or you didn't see a good fundamental?
We didn't see the communication work as well, apart from other measures. But our last question is about maybe if we look into the situation a little bit broader and we analyze a little bit broader the economic situation in the post-Soviet area, we can see that Moldovan national currency falling down. We can see Azerbaijan national currency falling down. Of course, it's a specific story in every specific country, but is there any joint factor for all of those countries? What is in common in all those situations in Ukraine, in Azerbaijan, and Moldova? What do you think is the?
So in Ukraine, the situation is a little different from other countries because we have a war. For all other countries in the post-Soviet space, the key issue is that the Russian ruble depreciated a lot, right? And for many of these countries, Russia is the main trading partner. To keep their goods competitive in the Russian market, they have to have a depreciation of their national currencies. In Azerbaijan, it was an extra step because they also depend on oil revenue, gas revenue. And so similar to Russia, they have to depreciate their currencies. They don't want to have problems later, like Ukraine has done. So Ukraine, to some extent, already depreciated the currency. We don't have to do that anymore to stay competitive on the Russian market. Just, if we think about the economic component of this. So, again, the common force is depreciation of Russian ruble. For countries to have their goods competitive in Russia, they have to depreciate, and that's why we see this common trend in the post-Soviet camp.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yuriy. We had Yuriy Gorodnichenko, professor of economics, Berkeley, California, with us on Skype.